You're almost there, STGM. Yay. Ba't parang di ka happy?
And what's there to be happy about?
Hmm? Konti na lang. Pero okay naman ba yung mga grades mo?
Hopefully.
Yung mga nakaraang yung prelim, midterm, okay. Hindi mo naman pinapasa sa akin ang grades mo. Dapat pasa mo sa GC natin sa family para makita rin ni daddy mo.
Public humiliation, no thanks.
O di kay mami na lang. Bakit naman i-humiliate ka eh? Matalino ka, kami nga ni daddy mo nakaraos eh, kahit hindi eh. That's okay. That's normal. That's very typical. You don't need to always be perfect in everything. Si kuya mo andyan?
Obviously, yeah.
Weekend kasi, no? Bukas birthday ni Papa Dodoy, may kainan kayo.
That's so.
Ah?
I didn't know.
Yeah, it's Papa Dodoy's birthday. 75th birthday.
Cool.
Anong ginagawa mo?
Video games.
Kausap mo pa rin si Toyo?
I guess, yeah. We still hang around.
Si daddy mo nakakausap mo?
I guess not. I don't really talk to him.
Kaya nga si mami din naging busy tayo rin eh. Ngayon lang kami walang word. Alam mo ba kung anong word niya, mami, RJ?
Factory somewhere.
Ha?
A factory somewhere.
Yeah. Una, di ba fish? Ngayon, nanguhuli kami ng crabs tsaka lobster.
Nice. What kind of factory are you working at? What?
It's a fish club.
Okay. I see.
Naninipit yung lobster. Grabe. Alam nasipit yung daliri ni mami, nagnamb.
Ouch.
Akala ko mapuputol yung daliri ni mami. Sobrang scary. Jay? Yeah. Kaya din tumawag si mami. I just want to say na si daddy mo, di ba, alam mo naman yung status niya.
Is his health still not good?
Yeah. Yeah, cheer up, daddy. Para kasi sobrang weak na ng kanyang at the moment. Wawa naman.
I'll see what I
Para
can do.
Gawan mo siya ng phone. O kantahan mo, mag-record ka ng kanta mo. Anything. Na mag-cheer up siya. Ayun lang yung natin. The best thing that we can do for him. Kasi wala naman tayong pera eh. Hindi natin siya matutulungan sa hospital bill niya.
Certainly not.
Ano, okay ka na dyan na ano? Si kuya mo nag-aasikaso.
Yeah. It's pretty nice so far.
And, kinukwento nga ni nanay na ano nga, naglalakad ka na lang papuntang sakayan ng tricycle. Okay ka naman ba sa ganon?
It is very hot on the way home. It's not nice.
Okay lang mainit, huwag lang maulan. Mas mahirap pag maulan.
I guess.
Tapos, kung sumasakay ka, sa barangay ka na lang, tas may nag-aabang na lang sa yung e-bike.
Yes.
Kasi nagsusundo sa'yo madalas.
Papa Dudoy, I guess.
Si Papa, pagdating mo, doon na si Papa.
Typically.
O ikaw ang nauuna.
We've got the timing down pat for the most part.
Oo nga, okay nga daw ang communication niya eh. Kasi nagte-text ka kay nanay. Bakit si Kuya Mirason mo sa pagdating na lang siya?
Yeah.
Kaya pa minsan hindi ka nagigising, andyan na si Kuya Mirasol.
It was
Ikaw
that one
nag-a-alarm.
time. That was once. It's literally never happened ever.
Parati ka na on time. Pag darating siya, nakaready ka na.
Shit. Okay,
Ano
cool.
bang
we gave
kwento
up.
mo?
Nothing, I guess.
Wala na ibang kwento. Patingin ako ng grade mo na. I want to see.
Sure.
Ka, ha?
Why not? I'll go kill him later.
Okay.
For now, I
Yes,
wanted to
pala.
spend today just relaxing.
How's Josh?
Alive, unfortunately.
Grabe ka naman. Bunso natin yan eh.
Unwanted. I'd be one of those super evil moms and just throw him away a long time ago.
Oh! You're a bad kuya. Wait, ni Jesse. Saan pa din siya nakapwesto sa hagdan?
Yep.
Yung aso ni kuya mo, sa kwarto lang.
Yeah. Guess we don't let him out on account of me, I suppose. I feel a little bad.
Bakit? Mas gusto mo yung aso nila kuya kaysa kay Jazz?
No, it's because I feel like I'm being a hindrance to somebody else's freedom.
Ba't nangangagat ba yung aso ni kuya mo? Ano pangalan niya ng aso ni kuya?
Cody bit me once, remember?
Na-injectionan ka ba nun?
Obviously. I'd be mentally shut down with rabies by now if it wasn't.
Wala namang rabies yan kasi asong bahay eh. Pero mas maganda pa rin na may injection. Tutulog pa din si Mami. Umaga dito, dyan gabi.
Yep.
Lagi ko kasi nagising. Pero I need to rest. Rest. Ano pang kwento? Basta yung favor ni Mami. Cheer up lagi, okay?
Yeah, sure. I'll see what I
Or
can
kung
do.
wala kang time, Hindi, kahit sa pag wala ka ng work, pag wala ka ng school. For now, kahit kamustahin mo lang, how are you, daddy? Chat mo siya. Uuwi daw si daddy mo eh. So, dalawin nyo na lang ni kuya mo.
Is that
Uuwi
so?
lang mo. Doon siya mag-recover.
I see.
Kaya ba yung June? Kailan ba year? Kailan ba next pasukan?
Don't know.
Chat ko. Chat ko nga si kuya mo.
Excuse me.
Umiinom ka pa rin ng mga vitamins mo?
Cool, my favorite. Never mind. Yeah.
Sige na.
Where can I put this without me blocking my own view?
Saka nagpapagupit. Doon pa rin sa pinapagupitan natin. Ano yung kama na yan? Ba't nandyan?
Yeah, it's just there. That's yours.
Ano gamit nila kuya mong kama?
I don't know, their own.
Tinanggal yung ano?
Yeah. Your beds fucking sucked anyways.
So, nasa sahig lang sila, nakakama.
But I don't know actually. I've never been to your room ever since they came in. What with Cody being there after all? Really rather not deal with that.
Ayun pa din mga suot mong pambahay. Ang liliit na.
What do you mean?
Mga pambahay.
I haven't grown any taller. I've peaked, unfortunately.
Ito magpapila mo.
Yeah, Ray was fucking goated, man. Do we still have anything to talk about? If not, I'd appreciate getting some privacy now.
Chat kasi ako sa kuya mo. Sabi ko, if ever na pagpupunta kayo, kay daddy mo, magpapadala akong money para may bit-bit kayo na something sa daddy niyo. Binalaw niyo siya sa bahay niya. I miss you, anak. Did you miss mommy?
Every day.
Na-touch naman ako.
It's not supposed to be tender. I'm depressed.
Sorry, anak, kung hindi masyado nagbibidyo call si mami or chat. But I know you understand kasi ayaw mo din ako ka-video call.
No.
Hindi mo din ako nire-replyan.
No. Actually, it's mostly just I don't really have time or it's bad internet, I suppose.
Yeah, tsaka school day nyo eh. Ba't di ka nag-aaral? Exam week nyo na ba next week? Last week? O tapos na?
I wanted to spend today relaxing. Is that a crime?
Akala ko completion na lang ng mga tapos na talaga kayo, totally tapos na. Exam week pa pala. Okay na. Energize ka na yan kasi nakausap mo na ako.
No.
May inspired ka na. Oh,
No.
I need to study. Because mom called me already.
No.
I'm your gasoline. So you can drive a long, long way to go. No?
Your English has not improved.
Bonjour, bonjour. Adios. Tatlo na language namin dito eh. May Spanish. Kasi mga ka-work namin is Mexican. And French. And nasa Quebec kami. Ang salita dito, never sila nag-English. They didn't know how to speak English. Ito kasi yung part ng Canada na para siyang South and North Korea. Na humiwalay siya sa Canada, ang Quebec.
That is one hell of a comparison. You know what the difference between those two states are, right?
Yeah, I know. It's an exaggeration. Wala namang war dito. Pero humiwalay lang talaga si Canada ay si Quebec sa Canada.
Yeah, 'cause you're basically saying Canada and Quebec is fascist and the other one is Republican.
Buenos dias, compañero. Alam mo siya sabi ko? Pero Spanish is more like a Filipino. Kasi alam nila yung salitang kusina, cubiertos.
Ever considered that it's the other way around, Mom? After all,
Yeah.
in the 1800s, they did kinda, invade us for a very long time.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
never forgive the Spaniards.
Kaya may salita tayo na salita rin nila. Naintindihan. Alam mo lang, puta. Sige na nga, i-blip na nga si Mami. Lopat na rin pala ako.
Please do. I'd like to focus on my game.
Ano ang tura ni Mami? You're old. Look at my face.
You don't look
Uh-huh.
any different.
Same.
I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, look at my haircut.
Yan, hindi. Gano'n ka ba mo?
I wanted to give it a trim because I was unhappy with my bangs, but I did a little oopsie.
Kaya mo na, parang style naman siya.
What? Sure, let's go with that. Let's go with that. It is hard coping.
Okay lang naman. Pero good on you. Ano vitamin C? Vitamin C tsaka Centrum.
Yes, you already asked this question.
Okay. Ano na inaalmusal mo? Rice?
Yep. The most part.
Sino magluluto? Kuya?
Well, yeah, actually, I'm the one cooking now. I know how to cook now.
Huh? Talaga?
No. Imagine though.
Sige na nga, bye-bye na.
See ya.
Bye, love you too.
Love you, miss you. Say it in French.
I don't know.
I'll remember that. I don't know.
Sige na, bye-bye.
See ya.
See ya.
Good God. She was hogging my screen for a while. Also, everything's just fucking going downhill. Oh God, there's two of them. Why? They're out of sync now. I've killed like 3 of these now. How have I still not gotten any drops from them? I think it is about time I called it quits for actually, look how close we are to the end. We can do this. Do or do not. There is no try. Let's just go all in. Let's not conserve any. Good gosh, we've already blew up all of our resources by now, but if you're this close to the end, then yeah, just keep blowing it up. Just keep blowing it up and eventually... Here's the plan. We book it. We just book it and hope for the best. Let's fucking go. I think we made it. Woof. I guess paralysis works the same way it does in Pokemon here. Random chance to skip your turn. Which, by the way, is fucking atrocious. People don't understand the reason it's a chance is because it's the best way to fucking balance an ability like that. Even then, I can't stress enough that that's still pretty dang bad. A lot of treasure there. Trial of enduring pain, you got that right. Need to get both floor jumps. Oh, why? Oh, we're in the clear! We did it! I do not believe it! How much do we recover exactly? Oops. It's literally just equal to the level. Should be fine if I can get this to just level 5, honestly. Then I can focus once again on just making everything be as powerful as they can be. Speaking of, I should probably just max out attack up by now. I don't know why I decided to invest on double strike before getting my attack maxed.
What you got for me? Thanks, I got some new goods. Go on, take a look. Is that all you came for? Thanks for the business.
Welcome to the Rooster Inn. Very well. Then allow me to show you to your room. Sign in over here,
Very
please.
stressful. I just realized we didn't find any mining spots or whatever.
Oh, you want to talk to me? Well, be careful out there.
Hello? Which one you want? Is that all you came for? Which one you want?
Oh, don't worry, we'll kill it at some point.
Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go.
It's almost expensive, but unfortunately
Here
very
you go.
vital.
Here you go. What you got for me? Thanks for the business. Welcome back. Is there anything else? I am at your service. Very well. Have a safe trip. Hey there. How goes the job? Now, what'll it be? You want to ask around?
May I help you? A toast to our meeting.
How goes the job? Hey, thanks! You want to ask around? You want to ask around? Okay, hear me out. I'm counting on you.
Ah, it's you. Keep it quick. I'll see you around.
What brings you here to Rada Hall? Now then. Was there something? You are free to leave.
I hate that line of
Welcome to
dialogue.
the Rooster Inn.
It's so
Sign in over here,
passive-aggressive.
please. Come back here whenever you're tired.
I think I have an idea. I think the way to get the unique drop is by... Well, we need to get the normal drops first. Oh well, we got an envelope. Really? I'm not really that surprised, honestly. When you're too good at your job, I suppose. Fuck me. Fewer than before, huh? Ooh la la.
What you got for me? Thanks. I got some new goods. Go on, take a look. Is that all you came for? Thanks for the business. Hey there. How goes the job? Hey, thanks. How goes the job? Now, what'll it be? I'm counting on you. Welcome back. I am at your service. Over here, please. Is there anything else? Be careful on your journey.
Welcome to the Rooster Inn. Very well. A quick rest, right? Of course. Well, be careful out there.
Hello? Which one you want? Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Is that all you came? Thanks for the business. Welcome back. Item storage then? Very well. I'll look after these. 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 Is there anything else? Be careful on your journey.
Welcome to the Rooster Inn. Sign in over here, please. Come back here whenever you're tired.
And it was the other one that was white. And the second guess myself. Oh! 3 or more. I guess that's not that bad. Look at him glowing blue now. Why? I'll either fight him again or fucking... Huh, what's your unique drop? Yu-Gi-Oh! Iceberg Part 3?
Frog the Jam. Yu-Gi-Oh's
Hey.
history with translation has been a rocky. In the early days, you'll get cards like Ama, Migeki, or Japanese equivalents for names that in Japanese are given English names. Inotama in Japan is just called Blackboard. In Nishin, Gargoyle, Migeki is Thunder. This could also lead to things like Giant Trune being named after a thing that doesn't exist, as they miswrote the Romanji version, Tornado. These are mostly fine and have no effect on gameplay. And for cases like Trune, it makes it sound more fantastical. Like this is a level above a tornado or a hurricane, it's a Trune! One thing that did end up becoming a problem, though, was when these translations had gameplay implications. What I'm talking about are cards like Summon Skull. In Japan, Summon Skull was called Summon Daemon, which means that when Archfiends, which when Daemon was translated to, became an archetype in Dark Crisis, any event that included them would include Summon Skull. The issue, though, is that while that would be true in Japan, for Americans that wouldn't work, since Summon Skull didn't have Archfiend in its name. Once the problem was realized, later reprints of Summoned Skull would include the line of text saying, "This card is always treated as an Archfiend card." This is a really odd solution, and putting Skull in a strange position of being a normal monster with an effect that isn't an effect. I mean, you can't negate his name. But wait, maybe you can. Other cards whose translated names aged poorly include Harvey's Brother, Cyberstein, and Diffusion Wave Motion. And the Harvey, Cyber, and Fusion archetypes were established, these guys were big problems, since they don't count due to not having those words in their original Japanese names. While Harvey's Brother was simply renamed to Sky Scout, Cyberstein and Diffusion Wave Motion were given tags like Summoned Skull that said they were not invited to the cookout and do not have the pass. The most famous of all of these monsters, though, is without a question Frog the Jam. Frog the Jam was released back in 1999, and the premium pack had sit down for this, Ultra Rare, and was named Keru Soraku, translating to Frog's Line. When the Frog archetype properly started, this presented a problem, so Frog the Jam was not part of it, and would therefore break the rules. But this card is called Keru in Japan, and Keru means frog, right? Well, you'd be right, except for the fact that the proper frog archetype doesn't use Keru, it uses Geru. Both are ways to say frog, but where frogs like Duke Frog and Swap Frog use Geru, Frog the Jam uses Keru. Long story short, this guy sits at his own lily pad. Frog the Jam was both a huge problem, but also too insignificant to give attention to, as he was only ever printed once in a McDonald's promo pack. Despite that, every piece of Frog support released until 2016 had to specify that it worked with all Frog monsters, except Frog the Jam. You can add one Frog monster, except Frog the Jam. Banish one Frog, except Frog the Jam. And with how much Frogs were played, this made people super confused as to why the card needed to be removed if it was never going to see play regardless. In 2016, ironically because of the release of a card that itself isn't a frog, totally awesome, Konami finally decided to change new name of Slime Toad. Other cards like Hardened Armed Dragon and Elemental Valkyrie have had similar treatments, but none of them have had such a prolific history like Frog the Jam. Anti-drug PSN. This is going to sound crazy, but that's only because it is. The early 2000s was at the tail end of the war on drugs in America. A war we lost, even though we were the only ones in it. We were past the days of cartoon all-stars to the rescue and Mario telling us we're going to hell. We were gearing up to tackle obesity next, so who cares what Ed, Ed, and Eddie are smoking? One of the last major anti-drug campaigns that used cartoons as the spokespeople was with Yu-Gi-Oh! As a part of the My Anti-Drug campaign in 2003. The idea with this campaign was that instead of giving kids a general idea of why not to use drugs, they would instead focus on something personal to them, like family, their friends, or a sports team, and make that the reason to not use drugs. As far as messaging goes, it's a pretty good idea. And to make it happen, the Office of National Drug Control Policy would team up with the three usual suspects: 4Kids, Blockbuster, and Sandy Lion Stickers. Gosh, the boys are back in town! Sandy Lion Stickers would produce stickers using the Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters with anti-drug messaging, which would then be sold in Blockbusters. Seeing what each character had as their reason to not do drugs is pretty great. Joey does it for his sister, Yugi does it for honor, Kaiba does it because he likes winning, and Pegasus does it for power. I guess if the reason you need to stay off drugs is world domination, well, hell, he's doing what we asked. This would also extend into Yu-Gi-Oh's online presence, as going to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Website in 2003 would let you watch an exclusive animation about the dangers of weed.
No, marijuana is harmful. I know it can't improve my game. My friends and I have faced many battles, and we have always dueled without drugs. I wouldn't be the world's best duelist if I smoked marijuana. It would disappoint my friend.
Holy
and
shit.
lower my concentration. And drugs is
AID
what I
fake
don't want
Yugi
to have.
Muto would benefit from these samples.
Eat my friend's clothes if I want to defeat my opponent's monster. I will never dishonor myself or my friends by using drugs. That's playing a game I can't win on my team.
So much to love here. Special attention to the fact they had key art for Yugi and Joey, but not Tristan and Tails, so quickly had to draft these two up in paint before lunch. The promotion unfortunately didn't go much further than this. Whether it was the plan to make it this short, or it wasn't very popular, hard to say. And nowadays the campaign is all but forgotten, save for that animation being shared around every once in a while. And a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player never did drugs again. The next Zodiac. The impact of Zodiacs and Raging Tempest can't be overstated no matter how hard you try. Immediately, we're talking within the week of their printing immediately, Zodiac bulldozed the entire game. The combination of their extreme ease of use, absurd power, and versatility meant that at YCS Seattle, first event of Zodiac was playable, 25 out of the top 32 players were on Zodiac. The deck was insanely consistent, able to use any one of its monsters to get into any one of its disease monsters. Had no problems breaking boards due to the power of its main boss monster, Zodiac Trident. It was instantly recognized as the best deck Yu-Gi-Oh! Had ever seen. What made Zodiacs even more deadly was their incredible splashability. With only a few main deck and extra deck slots dedicated to Zodiac monsters, the deck could fit in its best pieces into anything and give whatever it wanted a major boost. From the Metal Foes and their Pendulum summons, to the Infernoids and their graveyard setup, to the most infamous team-up, the Kaijus, replacing anything with a worthless Kaiju that would get blown apart by Zodiac Trident. Independently, each of those decks was already performing impressively, but adding Zodiac on top of that made them way stronger. Zodiac's destruction tour continued as YCS Atlanta, Guatemala, and Prague would all either be swamped by Zodiac or won by them outright. If you tallied up the top cuts of all 4 of these events, you would have 112 available slots to fill. Zodiac took up 92 of those 112 slots. When Midwest season came around, any hit to this deck would have to be from a baseball bat to slow it down. And post-banlist Zodiac got even better. Before they even got their new support in the next pack, they took 29 of the top 32 spots at YCS Denver, and 12 of the top 16 spots at YCS Bogota post-banlist. The next set, Maximum Crisis, would come out and introduce even more Zodiacs. Or Zoo variants, like True Draco, and Zoo would just keep getting better and better. It wasn't until Konami got out the heavy-duty weaponry and hit Broadbull, Trident, and Ratpier that the deck finally stopped. To this day, the Zodiac deck is so strong that just the release of Trident off the list, with nothing else, was enough to make Zoo a viable deck again after it mixed itself with the Tri-Brigade cards. Now that we've talked about Zodiac, though, what does the entry itself mean? The next Zodiac. Well, Zodiac's power left Yu-Gi-Oh! Players with a twitch. We'd been smacked so hard that now we were on hot alert. The next Zodiac refers to a phenomenon in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where the player base will often overvalue a deck upon reveal, and proclaim that its power is comparable to Zodiac's. This is often followed by a swift and immediate flop. The term was coined by Yugi-tuber Lithium2300 when talking about the magical musket deck, saying the deck's consistency, power level, and potential made it a successor to Zodiac as the best deck in the game. What made this stick all the more was how not only was Magical Musketeer not that good, it wasn't even good, period. Thanks to this tag of
it went nowhere.
Zodiac, Magical Musket is considered one of the biggest flops in Yu-Gi-Oh's history, due to the community being convinced it was about to kick the door down, only to end up stubbing its toe. As an aside, I have a personal hatred for the Magical Musketeers after I got into an argument with somebody claiming Magical Musketeer Max, their Link monster, was a better card than Predaplant Verte Anaconda.
How?
Not only is this card not better than Verte Anaconda, it's not even the best Link 1 Trap Fiend monster from the pack of its release. It's just a worse Trap Trick Sarah. Now, not every deck that got the next Zodiac treatment was as colossal as
how the fuck?
Decks like Orcust and Sky Striker were said to be on Zodiac's level, and while they were certainly top strategies, the tag of the next Zodiac was not warranted. And even more so, doesn't have a solid definition. Is the next Zodiac in terms of power? In terms of representation? In terms of its versatility? Other decks had those, but nobody had it to quite the extent the Zodiacs did. Eventually we actually got it right when Tier Element was called the next Zodiac, and well, they were right. For my money, no deck got hit worse by the Zodiac curse than Fluwanderese, a deck of level 1 bird monsters who gave you a load of additional normal summons instead of special summons. I don't know why this happened, but when Flu was revealed, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community went into meltdown. People were calling for the end times because of the birds, with one infamous comment saying that Flu was so strong, they needed to invent a tier above Tier 0 for how much play this deck was going to see. Like this deck was going to be the only thing we ever played with for the rest of time. It's fine. Expansive storylines. Card storylines are one of Yu-Gi-Oh's strongest aspects. Creating lore intertwined through card art and effect gives players an incentive to check out newer packs to see if Skull Servant finally got to go on vacation. But usually storylines like this will be limited to a single series or archetype. Every now and again you'll get a case like S-Force, which involves decks like Sunframe, Time Thieves, and Evil Twins, but this is hardly as complicated as it gets. For that, you need what are loosely called expansive card storylines. These are stories that take place not just over several archetypes, but often entire cycles of card pack releases, usually taking years to play out properly. The very first example of an expansive card storyline is the Dual Terminal. Originating from the arcade machines of the same name, the Dual Terminal is a realm of 4 tribes in constant conflict. the sedentary ice barriers, the mercenary band X-Sabers, the reclusive mist valleys, and warlike flank bells are trapped in a never-ending war. Until one day, a threat from outer space unites them. A meteorite from the W Nebula arrives on Earth and unleashes the Worm Menace, beginning in a full-scale invasion of the planet, forcing the disparate tribes to join forces, eventually constructing the weapons of war the Allied Armistice. By building the ultimate decisive armor, the Allies are able to fight back against the Worms, waiting for their war to awaken another dormant tribe, the Fables. These devils begin to encroach on the surface until they get blown up by a giant rock falling on them. Don't worry, guys, happens to the best of us. Eventually getting sick and tired of all of this, the ice barriers unseal the 3 legendary dragons, causing an ice age and setting the world back to 0. This is the ending to the very first part of the storyline, which would go on for a later 2 sagas. The storyline would span dozens of archetypes, from all the ones mentioned above to the Naturia, trying to defend their home and sacred tree, which it turns out is actually housing a computer program meant to reset the world if things ever get too crazy, which becomes the Cleefort, where then destroyed and release Infernoids, which resurrect a destruction god named Tiara. There's the Gishkis, remnants of the Ice Barrier, who specialize in water magic, have their own subplot going into conflict within a family, as a mother descends into madness and eventually starts mutating herself and her children with forbidden magic. The Fables are killed, they release an ancient virus, which at first manifests itself as the bug-like Steel Swarm, before evolving further into the Evil Swarm virus, which resurrects dozens of previously killed characters into disgusting mutated messes. Evan's just trying to keep track of how many times Gem Knight Diamond dies. These two are meant to be the same character. It was Yu-Gi-Oh's first attempt at a storyline like this, so it's very unfocused and hard to make sense of if you start from the beginning. Especially if you don't dip into the guidebooks to get a clearer picture of what's going on. But when looking at what comes after it, it's one of the most important storylines in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Next was the World Legacy series, following a plucky band of RPG analogs, Aurum, Ib, Ningirsu, and Imduk, living under the control of the Mech Knights, and fighting for their lives against the hive mind Crawlers. One day, they find a special chalice, one of the 7 artifacts needed to save the world. And along with their new ally, Lee the Fairy, the 4 of them get upgraded and set out to defeat the Mech Knights and eliminate the Crawlers. The Mech Knights kidnap their cleric Eve and reveal they're actually not evil after all, which Lee sees as a great chance to reveal she was evil the entire time, steals Ive's body, and then mutates the Mech Knights into monstrosities. The only Mech Knight who escaped, Blue Sky, gives up his life to empower Aurum into Avram, as Ningirsu has to fight back against all of the mutated nightmares at the same time. The 3 remaining World Chalice members are able to fight back against the nightmares and then fight Ibli, mind form of Ib and Lee, only for Ib to get control back long enough to kill herself. From there, the remaining fighters fracture, as Avram and Imduk create the justice-seeking Crusadia, and in an attempt to resurrect his now-dead sister, Ningirsu creates the cold and mechanical forecast, eventually bringing the 2 former friends back into conflict, as Lee plans in the background for her own resurrection. The storyline is so much easier to follow than the previous, thanks to its truncated length, lasting only 1 series of cards rather than 3. World Legacy was a massive step in the right direction, showing that Konami, they had the resources and knowledge of how to do it, an engaging card storyline. The very next one, though, overshadowed both of these and is considered the crown jewel of Yu-Gi-Oh's storytelling potential, the Ranking storyline. Starting with a war between the Dogmatica Church and Tri-Brigade, which are
Hell yeah, racism and religion.
Of war, the young Saint Ecclesia spots a portal in the sky that a dragon falls out of. Except when she goes to investigate, she finds a young man that's been branded, and with a strange He tried to escape from the war into the depths of the desert of Golganda, only to come into conflict with the Spring Gangs, living missiles fighting to defeat a massive serpent who's taken over their land, which Albaz and Ecclesia assist with. While the two recover, a new threat appears in the Dogmatica capital, the Despia, an invading force of demons led by a jester named Aluber. Aluber has the same power that Albaz does to transform into dragons, and begins corrupting the bodies of the other Dogmatica followers into abominations. When Albaz and Ecclesia find out what's going on, they set out to recruit the ancient Sword Soul fighters to help them take back the capital. This one I'm going to leave a bit more vague, since it's really worth experiencing for yourself. The story takes a lot of twists and turns that make it a really interesting read-through. By the end of the story, people were on the edge of their seats waiting to see what new factions would appear, how Albaz and Ecclesia's story would conclude, and what they could even do to stop Aluber. They even have a filler arc where one of the Springhans goes off to become the world champ. This storyline was popular. They released a book in Japan that contains every single card released as a part of the storyline, as well as the lore written out for the very first time. There's a reason people are excited that Konami is turning this one into an anime series, and why they stopped being hyped when they saw the Sky Striker one. That storyline was something very strange, as it was actually meant to run parallel to the Albaz story, and I think might have wrapped up before the Albaz one did. Vsauce Starfrost is the story of a man named Vsauce, whose emotions were stolen and scattered across different dimensions, infecting alternate versions of himself with his worst aspects. Now he has to confront them all and absorb them back into himself to become one again. I don't know what it is about Vsauce, but nobody cared about this storyline. Maybe it's because he gave us Tear-Element and Kashtira back to back, like a cat gives you a decapitated mouse, but whatever hype there was for Branded was not there for Vsauce. It eventually ends with the guy responsible for his suffering, Vado Upanishad, reappearing, restarting time, and then we do the whole thing over again. Am I selling it short? Maybe, but a much more interesting storyline was right around the corner. The Diabellstar lore is our latest one, which just wrapped up, and follows the Dark Witch Diabellstar on her hunt for the Sinful Spoils, a collection of dangerous artifacts. The first one she finds is the Snake Eye, which manifests itself into various creatures like Ash, Oak, and the massive Flamberge Dragon. She manages to subdue the eye and transform it into her new pet, Poplar. I wanted to leave out a pun this clever, too. All of the Snake Eyes are level 1. And what do you call it when a pair of dice comes up with 2 ones? Snake Eyes. The story actually starts after this, when the main characters appear, the Badass Goblin Bikers. That is not a pseudonym, that's their name. And when they power up, they become the Kick-Ass Goblin Bikers. They don't do too well. Poplar, by extension the Snake Eye, is then stolen by Diabellstar's old friend, Diabells the original Sin Keeper, as the two are now in conflict as Diabells fights to get her pet back. This is another one I won't go too much into, since it only just wrapped up, so it should be easy for you to get into, especially since it has goblins in it. These expansive card storylines have become a fan-favorite part of the game for the past 5 years, ever since PAX stopped having anime stories to draw from. And with a new one starting soon with Archmagia, it'll be interesting to see what happens to try to not make another Vsauce. Oh my god, I completely forgot about Draco Slayers. If you want to know the story, it's about Trident and friends trying to stop this guy. He is Hitler. He was a dragon.
Excuse me?
Cards made by fans. Any kid who grew up playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Has tried making their own cards at some point. They all had Infinite Attack, were divine, and had Goku in the art. This was a coming-of-age ritual. Don't act like you didn't do it. You'd dream of becoming a card designer, and then learn that Konami will fake your death so nobody will know your true identity, and then reevaluate. But there was actually a way for young players to live out their dreams and see their cards become a reality. Both the OCG and TCG have held tournaments for young fans to send in card designs to be turned into real cards. As soon as the very first Yu-Gi-Oh! Video game, Read and Battle, fan designs have been used for the templates of cards, with the very first of them being Tile. While its adapted version in the card game would eventually look much different from its Read and Battle version, this was the first time a fan's design would be used for a monster. And by the release of the second Yu-Gi-Oh! Video game, Duel Monsters, there were 9 designs taken and used in the game that were submitted by fans. The most iconic, or I guess ironic of them, is the original twin long rods, which, like cards like Morphian and Shape Snatch, have become fan favorites because of how ugly and weird they are. From here, about once a series, we'd get a fan contest that would result in some new cards, usually all lumped together in the same pack. GX is the outlier, as instead of printing all 3 cards that were accepted, 2 of them were used for designs exclusive to the anime. Again, though, in close proximity. The anime boss of the Monarch deck was Demiurge Emma, and alongside another monster named Load of Darkness, used almost right after Emma, were both made by fans, selected from a contest where 3 winners would get their cards printed. The last one was the only one of the 3 who actually got printed, Rallis the Starbird. I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, but if I wasn't the one of the 3 who got printed, I'd be pissed. The 5Ds contest did actually manage to print all the cards who won, with 5 in total making the cut. These included Splendid Rose, Orthtronic Vacuuman, Chaos King Archfiend, Bird of Roses, and, most surprisingly of all, Drill Synchron and Drill Warrior. Not only were these 2 much more important than the Bird of Roses, since they would be used by the main character, they were also 2 of the Synchron and Warrior monsters who saw the most play. So, hats off to the kid who drew these. Especially because this picture of Drill Synchron is really funny to me. Zexal's contest wouldn't give us quite so many strong cards, as it went back down to 3. With us Bachi Bachi Bachi, Dote Dotengu, and Tatakawa Knight being released in the Lords of the Tachyon Galaxy. You really had to drop the baby cards in the same set as the Dragon Rulers. You're about to learn, kids! Sometimes dreams shouldn't come true. Arc 5 was next, and because Arc 5 can't do anything right, they only included 1 fan-made card, Performapal Trumpwitch. Vrains would have no fan-made cards because Vrains hates children. The TCG also got in on the fun and held a few contests itself to include some fan-made cards in upcoming packs. Usually run through 4 kids in events like the Duel to Rule and Design Your Destiny sweepstakes. Duel to Rule gave its first prize winner a trip to the 2010 World Championship, a chance to duel a world champion, and the ability to design their own card on top of becoming the leader of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Nation. That event was won by a kid named Christopher, who was able to create his own card, Vampire Dragon. The Design Your Destiny sweepstakes was an art contest where kids could submit their designs to get them published in the pack Gladiator's Assault, and I am begging somebody to help me find this. There was an ad they did for this sweepstakes with Joey and Yugi, and Joey draws a monster riding a scooter, and then either Joey or Yugi says, "Monsters can't ride scooters." This stuck in my mind like I witnessed the Kennedy assassination, but I can't find it. The winners of this... well, actually, let's see if the playing field was fair. You have Tongue Twister, a cute little design. Screech, oh, very impressive shading, Kristen. Good job. Alright, now let's show off Dragonax. You f***ing cheater, you're a grown man, get out of here! Of course, if you want to talk about the most famous fan-made card, there's really only one. Tyler the Great Warrior. Hey, fair warning, this is gonna be a bit heavier than most. Not much fun to be found in childhood cancer, so let's just treat this right. Tyler Gressel was a 14-year-old kid in 2002, when he went to the doctors reporting intense abdominal pain. It turns out what was causing the pain was undifferentiated embryonal sarcoma, a form of cancer that typically appears in children between 5 and 15 and targets the liver. Tyler immediately went in for surgery, which resulted in the removal of 6 inches of his large intestine, 25% of his liver, and his entire gallbladder. If everything hadn't played out perfectly, there was no doubt that Tyler wouldn't have survived. But something beyond luck was helping out Tyler, since the doctor performing the surgery had actually seen one of the less than 20 cases before this and was able to remove the burst mass. During his recovery, the Make-A-Wish Foundation reached out to Tyler and his family, and for his wish, Tyler wanted to create his very own Yu-Gi-Oh card. In collaboration with 4Kids and Konami, they were able to make this happen. The initial sketches for Tyler's card were done by Tyler himself, before being sent to no less than Kazuki Takahashi himself, who, after translating the sketches into his own style, sent them back to Tyler for approval. The results are the card Tyler the Great Warrior, a one-of-a-kind card that represented Tyler's struggle, representing him as a Super Saiyan-style warrior with a sword, shurikens, and a black belt, with the unique pack code of TYL. Being a one-of-one makes Tyler the Great Warrior likely one of the rarest Yu-Gi-Oh cards in all of existence, as it was never reprinted or redistributed in any form. Konami doesn't even have a copy of it in their official card database. Only Tyler has it. With that distinction as such a rare card proved to be a great thing for Tyler in 2023, when it came time to part with it. Since it was such a rare collector's item, Tyler made the call to sell the card in order to set himself up financially. The card would sell to a private collector on April 29th for a colossal $311,000, one of the highest sales in card game history, which Tyler put towards starting a family, business, and allowing his family to travel the world one day. It's one of the most unique stories in Yu-Gi-Oh's history, and for one that started in such a horrible, horrible place, having the ending we do have with Tyler alive and well is such an incredible thing. Upper Deck. Konami, despite being the creators of the Yu-Gi-Oh card game, were often hands-off for much of the American production of the property as we know it. You'll be familiar with how much they let 4Kids handle the production of the anime series, but that wasn't all. As for the lion's share of Yu-Gi-Oh's first decade, production of the cards wasn't handled by Konami, but Upper Deck Entertainment. Founded in 1988, Upper Deck was an American and Dutch company who specialized in sports card manufacturing, making cards for both the MLB and the NHL, as well as cards for shorter-lived TCGs like Avatar and World of Warcraft. The deal they made in 2002, though, to distribute Yu-Gi-Oh! Was their biggest non-sports deal ever, reaching record-high profits of over $17 million in the first quarter after the two joined forces. Upper Deck and Konami would work together in harmony for that near decade I mentioned earlier, organizing events like Shonen Jump World Championship Series, the precursor to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series, the first major organized play that Yu-Gi-Oh! Saw in America. Those couple of things wouldn't really make for an interesting entry on its own, though, so things started to get weird in the 5Ds era, specifically around the release of their second set, Crossroads of Chaos. Konami had been made aware of a product being sold by a company called Vintage Sports Cards. They were selling a product called Duel Kings 2, with official Konami branding, as well as Yu-Gi-Oh cards inside of it. If they were simply selling repackaged cards, that would be bad enough. Except they were found to be selling extremely high-quality counterfeit cards as well, not just cards gotten from packs that were produced by Upper Deck and Konami. These counterfeit cards were nearly indistinguishable from the real ones, only noticeable if looking at the Eye of Anubis stamp in the corner. First edition runs of cards would have a gold stamp, with unlimited runs having a silver stamp. Though these were first edition runs with a silver stamp, meaning they were fakes. Konami went to sue Vintage Sports Cards, only for Vintage to divulge where these cards had come from. It turns out that on the sly, Upper Deck Entertainment had been producing and selling counterfeit cards in high and desirable rarities, in order to sell them to these resellers and make a load of profit all for themselves. Vintage Sports Cards disclosed that over 500,000 cards had been sold to them by Upper Deck.
Hello?
And now all of a
What
sudden,
you got
this
for
went
me?
from a case of Konami hunting down a reseller to them finding out that the people responsible
I got
for
some new
printing their
goods.
flagship
Go on,
game
take a
had been
look.
scamming them the
Is that all
entire
you came
time.
for?
Upper Deck was added to the lawsuit that Vintage Sports Cards was a part of, with Upper Deck trying to calm
Here you
things
go.
down by revealing a bomb strapped to their chest, saying that if Konami took things any further, they'd bankrupt both companies. They then tried to get Konami on breach of contract for trying to terminate their partnership following the discovery, and even went
Here
so
you go.
far as to have the Netherlands branch sue the US branch to try to get a leg up. How that works, I have nowhere near the legal knowledge to tell you. The lawsuit continued into the production of the next pack, Crimson Crisis, as now it looked more and more likely that Konami could lose and end up halting production of the game. Crimson Crisis got delayed, sneak
Here you
preview
go.
events for the pack were cancelled, and Upper Deck would hold a super sketchy tournament called Upper Deck Day, which was a way for them to drum up public support with extravagant prize cards, as a way to dump said prize cards in case things went wrong. And wrong they did! Konami began winning case after case involving Upper Deck, with the few victories Upper Deck got being reversed.
Here you go.
Until the two companies settled out of court, with Konami leaving with an
What you got
undisclosed
for me?
amount of money, and Upper Deck leaving with a lifetime injunction, prohibiting them from ever producing Yu-Gi-Oh! Products ever again. As for Vintage Sports Cards, if they wanted me to find out what happened to them, they should have had a
Here you
name that was
go.
easily searchable. From Duelist Revolution onward, Konami assumed full control of the brand and would distribute cards themselves. People refer to this event as the event that could have killed Yu-Gi-Oh!, and
for
that's
the
no
business.
understatement. With just a few different outcomes, Upper Deck's promise
me
of
have a look.
mutually assured destruction would have
hello,
come to
everyone.
pass. That
You
delay
please
in the
accept
release of
this.
Crimson Crisis could have proved fatal for Yu-Gi-Oh!
Item storage,
Because card games like this require constant updates to keep their player base around. If Crimson Crisis had been delayed,
this
players
what
would
you
have just
wanted?
found another
Here you
game
are.
to play.
Was
It's not
this
like
what you
Magic the
wanted?
Gathering and the
Here you
Pokemon card game weren't doing just as well, if not better, around the same time. It wouldn't have been hard to make
Is
the
there anything
transition.
else?
Upper Deck,
Be
for
careful
their
on your
part,
journey.
haven't exactly kept their nose clean in a post-Konami landscape, found by the MLB to be doing a very similar thing they were doing to Konami to their baseball cards. Whether the more recent controversy of Upper Deck giving their employees exclusive cards meant to tank the secondary market is true or not, is just
Welcome
gonna
to the
have to
Rooster
come
Inn.
to pass.
Very well. A quick rest, right?
They also
Love
made
these
that
5Ds
one stupid
intros.
collectible key
I
game.
miss when everything had its own website. I've
Sign in
already
over
touched
here,
on how
please.
this affected me with Yu-Gi-Oh! And how I would absolutely abuse the refresh button on the official website to see when Bonds
Well,
Beyond
be
Time was
careful out
coming
there.
out, and check for when new packs were dropping, watch clips from episodes. It was the best. Same with sites like Nick Arcade and Cartoon Network. I honestly preferred when the internet was this sectored thing where every site had its purpose and intended age bracket. Now everybody just goes on Twitter and either sees a dead body or somebody's penis. I'd get really excited when these sites would start to do insight events, like polls or mock elections or announcements for new games. 4Kids would have one such event, and it's one that ended up having a huge impact on the latest series of the time, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. 5Ds would premiere around 2008 or 2009 on 4Kids, but before it launched, they actually held a contest where kids could go to the 4Kids website and vote on 8 different theme songs for the show. We had never gotten a second theme song for any of the previous shows. Now we had a whole 8 of them to pick from. With them being just a little under a minute long each, I thought it would be fun to go through and do an impromptu top 8 list going over the best and worst of these themes. songs, since it's clear why some got cut, but others sound really good.
So, he just invades the entire encounter. Please get me out of here.
Don't worry though, they knew they had gold, and reused this for a different 4Kids show, Go Riki. Such a blast, Chico's his best friend, pulling up his poetry, poses the princess to the out of gadgetry. You think I have enough free time to make shit like this up?
Why is that the thumbnail you chose? For what? Man, Vale's back must be tired despite being flat as fuck.
While the other songs, save for Need for Speed, were never used for anything else, they have been preserved and can be listened to via YouTube re-uploads. If you want to know what it would be like to live in a Butterfly Effect universe, imagine any of these actually being 5D's intro. Yu-Gi-Oh! Music to Duel by. Music has always been a really big part of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. In Japan, it's frequent to get a new opening every season. Some series ending up with 5 different theme songs, as opposed to America, where we usually get just one. Not just the themes either. They'll often get incredibly high-quality music made for the show itself, some even being lyrical tracks. No doubt the most iconic is from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, when the legendary Masaki Endo performed the song Clear Mind for the summoning of Shooting Star Dragon. Hey! Just the opening for Perfect Origin Arc Season 2, I'm just saying! Even the games are no stranger to incredible music, with some legendary game composers like Hiroshi Tanabe and Wachiro Ozaki go on to make music for the Metal Gear series, specifically Snake Eater, working on some of those Game Boy Advance games. With how much attention the music is given in Japan, it naturally came with physical releases called sound duels. Sound duels were simply CDs containing the soundtrack to a given Yu-Gi-Oh! Season, and they would include pretty much all the music they could. That begs the question, has America ever tried something like this? Well, once. Released on September 29th of 2001, Yu-Gi-Oh! Music to Duel By is a CD containing the soundtrack to the 4Kids dub of Yu-Gi-Oh! This was the first and only time the English soundtrack to a Yu-Gi-Oh! Series would ever be publicly released. Though it wasn't the only time 4Kids ever used that 4Kids Records label, as it was also how they released the soundtrack to Pokemon. Just like that Pokemon release, Music to Duel By has some instrumental pieces, compared to what the CD is now much more known for today, lyrical tracks. See, early 4Kids Yu-Gi-Oh! Had a lot of lyrical tracks. Moments like Kaiba hacking the Industrial Illusion satellite, or Joey and Yugi preparing for their duel, would be given theme songs like I'm Back and No Matter What. There were regular background tracks, including for moments like Exodia's Summon or Blue Eyes coming out, but it's a lot less like the sound duels, which included loads of background music, and much closer to a regular CD with songs that were about Yu-Gi-Oh! Some of these are pretty good. No Matter What might be extremely corny, but it's not a bad song to listen to at all. But for everyone like that, you'll get a Duel Madness, or Face Up, Face Down, which is sung from Pegasus's perspective, by Pegasus voice actor and series voice director, Darren Dunstan. He wasn't the only 4Kids regular on the CD either, as a lot of other musicians who worked on this and other 4Kids productions would feature on the CD. Russell Velasquez, who made the themes to Sonic X and the Johto Pokemon seasons, would compose Time to Duel with Paul Blair, who would go on to become a longtime producer for Lady Gaga, working on Born This Way, Party Pop, and her movie A Star Is Born. It's a strong rumor that Music to Duel By was meant to be a test to see if the sound duel format could work in America, and whether by low sales or a change in approach, this would never happen again. That means official and even unofficial uploads of the majority of 4Kids background tracks are unavailable, beyond people trying to remove the audio of a scene to preserve just the music. Even a majority of the Duel Monsters OST is missing. Or at least it would be, if not for Joel Doing. Joel was a composer on both Music to Duel By and a lot of the original series, and in 2009, he started uploading unreleased tracks from the series to his YouTube channel. Now if you want to listen to stuff like the theme of the God Cards, or Kaiba's theme, you can thanks to Joel. The album itself has been preserved entirely online, and if sick curiosity gets the better of you, it's worth a listen. It's endearingly goofy, a monument to a time that's long past, and I wouldn't change a thing. Forbidden Memories. The very first official console Yu-Gi-Oh! Game, Forbidden Memories was released on December 9th, 1999 in Japan, and March 2002 in America for the original PlayStation. This is a game that coincides with both regions' launch of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game, with Japan's launch in February of 1999 and America's launch in March of 2002, both being accompanied by this game. The game itself is an updated, by 2 cards, upgrade of Dark Duel Stories 2 for the Game Boy, featuring a few of the same mechanics and characters made more extravagant for the PlayStation. The story of the game follows you as the Prince Atem, as you get usurped by the villain Patient and trapped in your Millennium Puzzle, waking up years later in the care of Yugi, as now you have to get stronger so you can return to your own time and take back your kingdom. The game plays like Yu-Gi-Oh! How Dark Duel Stories 2 kind of plays like Yu-Gi-Oh! It has all the monsters, but it has a variety of weird mechanics that even those who have played the game for years struggle to fully understand. For instance, fusion doesn't require polymerization and can be done with a variety of different monsters. Like, your entire hand if you choose. Monsters can be fused with other monsters and spell cards in a way that kind of has an internal logic to it. Like using Elegant Egotist on a sword card to make the ritual Karma Sword Oath, or using Labyrinth Wall and Zone Eater to make Dungeon Worm. But then you have every other fusion in the game. Darkfire Dragon and Tiger Axe. I dare you to guess what they make. It doesn't get much easier when you get the monster on the field, as now you need to determine its star sign. You can align your monster with a different star based on the lunar bodies of our solar system, with each one having a strength and weakness that gives you an advantage or disadvantage over an opponent in battle.
Had to shoot
This,
the pig
along
first.
with the fusions, are some of the many things this game is infamous for, another being its crushing difficulty. The game is not coy with the fact that it cheats. The game gives the opponent a randomized deck most of the time, meaning that there's little to no prep work you can do. And oftentimes, those decks will just give your opponent monsters leagues stronger than even those you can fuse into. Those fusions also have no catalog or explanation of how they work. If you find a way to fuse two monsters together successfully, you'd better write it down. Its grind is also excruciating, forcing you to play hundreds of games to afford single cards thanks to giving a max 5-star chips per game, with some cards costing in the thousands. It also has a nasty habit of
It's an
giving
arena
opponents
for a
Exodia,
fucking
which you'll
post-game
randomly
boss.
win with after dumping its whole hand, because drawing here works on rush duel rules. This has made the game a living hell for speedrunners. No way! No! I just got Exodia! Nostalgia is a hell of a drug because I hated playing this game. It stinks. That said, I do still understand why people enjoy it so much. This is the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. Whichever one you grew up with, this one predates them all. So, I don't not understand why some people are willing to put up with the jank. Also, playing nothing like Yu-Gi-Oh! Kinda works to its advantage. There is absolutely nothing else quite like Forbidden
Hello?
Memories.
What you got for me?
Worse, but for some
Thanks.
people, that's all they need.
Is that all you
If
came
you want
for?
to play it,
Thanks
you
for
can
the
pick it up
business.
in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days collection.
Welcome
Trust
back.
me, it's in there. You can trust me. I'm a nice guy. I'm a good guy.
Who
You
will
can
carry
trust
this
me on
one?
this. Idiot. Duelist of the Roses. Released on September 6th, 2001 in Japan, just made
Is
it,
there anything
and February
else?
16th, 2003 in America, Duelist of the Roses might
Here is
not
the list
seem
of
it,
requests.
but this is actually
I am
the
at your
sequel to
service.
Forbidden Memories.
Please leave it to me.
It
Over
might
here,
be
please.
unrelated in America, but in Japan, this game is
Be
called
careful on
True
your journey.
Duel Monsters 2, while Forbidden Memories was True Duel Monsters 1. Instead of setting the game in ancient Egypt, this one is set in the English War of the Roses between Henry Tudor and Christian Rosencreutz, played by Yugi
Hi
and
there.
Kaiba.
Which one are you
The
interested
first
in?
scene you meet him in, Henry insists that his
Ah,
true name
that
is
one.
boring and a pain to say. So instead, call him Yugi. How the hell
Which
do
one
get
are
a
you
nickname
interested
like
in?
that? Well, the game doesn't have the star sign system of the previous one. Makes up
Ah,
for it
that
with a
one.
brand new game-wide weirdness. It's kinda weird chess. The game is played on a 7x7 grid. Play monsters onto with
I'm
different
counting on
effects
you.
depending on what type they are, space they're occupying, and who they fight. The game is absolutely bursting.
Welcome
with
to the Rooster
strategic
Inn.
and
Very
mechanical
well.
depth
Then allow me
that
to show you to your room.
classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Game fashion, it doesn't explain. But when has that ever gotten in the way?
Sign
I'll
in
run
over
the
here,
last
please.
one.
Well, be
Yeah,
careful
I'll be
out there.
Frank, or Yugi, and say I don't really like Duelist of the Roses. I get why people do. It's incredibly weird and different. Different to the point that it's really its own thing rather than just being a Yu-Gi-Oh! Thing. But it's just too weird for me. It's the type of weird you only really appreciate if you grew up with the game and had no other options. Of course, this is probably because I tried Kaiba's campaign first, because why would I not? Got stomped, and then found people saying, "Never play Kaiba's campaign first! Oh dear God!" Fine, but still, it's not the sort of game that just clicks with me. That doesn't mean it
Lame.
didn't click for a lot of other people, though. This game has one of the biggest fan bases of any Yu-Gi-Oh! Game.
Oh yeah, I should try
Plenty of
fighting one of
people
the
not even
Moas.
interested in the card game, praising it to no end as a really in-depth strategy game. A computer that really kind of cheats. Given that it's a sequel, and despite how different the gameplay looks, a lot of what I have to say about Forbidden Memories goes for Duelist of the Roses. It's a brand of uniqueness that is not replicated by many other games. If you want to try it out, I entirely endorse it. It's a great time if you're willing to put in the effort to understand how it works. If you want to try it for yourself, you can pick up the Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days collection. Honest, cross my heart and hope to die. If you look up anything about it beforehand, I'll be offended. Just buy it! People seriously thought they were going to include Forbidden Memories and Duelist of the Roses in this collection after showing only Game Boy games! Falsebound Kingdom. The second in a trio of games exclusive to each of the 6th generation consoles, Falsebound Kingdom is another game with a lot of oddities to it. Not least of which because, like Duelist of the Roses, it's not a game about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game. It's a game that uses the Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters as the set dressing for a strange RTS RPG. You again get the choice of either Yugi or Kaiba to start out with an unlockable Joey campaign if you beat both, with the plot being your selected character getting sucked into the virtual world by a vengeful Kaiba Corp employee when you go to test the latest virtual reality software. And now you need to beat the game to get out. And right, favorable comparisons being drawn between this and Scooby-Doo's Cyber Chase. The gameplay takes the form of this widespread map with players starting at either end. There are various towns and resource locations you'll need to race to capture first before your opponent can get there, so you can get yourself an advantage when it comes time for your armies to meet. When they do meet, you go to a very simple turn-based battle screen where you pit monsters against each other until the timer determines if you win or lose. Higher health at the end of the time means you win. Alright, gloves off this time! This is the worst of the 3 games. I'm sorry if you have a lot of nostalgia for this game, but buddy, so do I! I played this game so much when I was a kid, but I never got better, I just got further. This game is so goddamn slow, it's insane! Monsters walking across the map takes forever, and the battles once you get to them are sluggish and lack life. You get one option for the same attack animation every time you battle with a monster, and it'll take until the end of your first encounter for you to be tired of all of it. This game asks a huge time investment from the player, but not in a civilization way where it lets you build up resources. No, I mean it's just so slow that actually getting to the boring parts is a slog! I can see what they're trying to do. The game has a lot of side quests to collect new monsters, some having dialogue specific to them, with plenty of differences between them, and over 100 monsters to collect with 3D models and attacks. But it does not make up for the fact that playing the game they're in sucks. I do not recommend this game at all. It is a real chore. Almost as much as collecting Moisture Creature to add to your army in this game. I'm just interested in this. What do you mean he's the only roaming encounter in the game on a random corner of a random map that no other mission uses that can only be found by Kaiba, and then isn't even useful? What is wrong with you, game? Alternate formats. Yu-Gi-Oh! Sucks, let's play some Yu-Gi-Oh! How you're going to be playing Yu-Gi-Oh! 99% of the time is what's called the advanced format. It's kinda hard to describe exactly what this format is outside of just saying, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! It's how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is pretty much played everywhere and has been the standard for the game's entire lifespan. Most of the game's lifespan. That said, it's not the only way you can play the game, as if you want to play something else with your Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, you can always try out alternate formats. These are Yu-Gi-Oh! Played under different rules that put unique modifiers on how the game is allowed to be played, changing the rules of the game, card pool, and deck construction rules. While there are fan-made alternate formats, for this topic we'll be focusing solely on the Konami-sanctioned ones, and when it comes to Konami-sanctioned alt formats, you have the rest, and then you have Time Wizard. Formally established in 2022, Time Wizard is a format that allows players to travel back to previous formats in the game's history, and play as though it were that. What I mean is that, let's say you think Yu-Gi-Oh! Broke when they introduced Xyz monsters. If you want to play without them, you can play the Edison format, which replicates the format of the 2010 Shonen Jump Championship Tournament in Edison, New Jersey. Now you too can play the Doom Caliber Knight gadget deck that came in second, that nobody knows how it got there and everybody agrees was really bad. This is the fan-favorite format for Time Wizard events, as it had a massive diversity of decks in a meta that was hugely unexplored at the time, bringing the game back to a time where it was at a beautiful balancing point between slow control and fast combo. If you remember me gushing about Over the Nexus, this is the format that game replicated, and it's great.
Hell
It's
yeah.
also not the only one. Any historic format is up for grabs if you want to play it. Want to play crappy Magic the Gathering? Goat format is available to play. Want to play less crappy Magic? That's what Reaper format's for. Hat format is a historically loved format from the Xyz era. Duelist Alliance is the first set that truly ushered in the modern age of Yu-Gi-Oh! The Toss format was one of the last times there was a diversity of top decks, before we got our conga line of Tier 0 strategies we see nowadays. You can go back to any era you want, except GX, which had no good formats. This is the fan-favorite alt format, since it gives people
Yeah,
something
GX
that
was just
everybody
fucking
wants,
atrocious,
what they had
apparently.
before. Second,
It had level
format
monsters.
is
Nobody
Rivalry of
liked
War
those.
Cards, a format that exists almost solely in YCSs, which is a rental format. At any time, a series of decks will be selectable to play with, and you have to pick one and then try to win a tournament against other people who picked their own rental decks. This serves as a much lower power format, one that Konami can curate themselves, give non-meta decks the spotlight, and introduce players to cards they might have never seen otherwise. And now for all the formats Konami forgot about. Deckmaster format is the most infamous of them because they just didn't explain how it was supposed to work. Like in Season 4 of the Duel Monsters anime, you can select one monster from your deck to act as your Deckmaster. Deckmaster's effect would be active for the whole duel, activated as though it were on the field, and is unrespondable. It took people 2 seconds to realize the only Deckmaster worth using was Last Warrior from Another Planet, who says you cannot summon. All sorts of degenerate floodgates were picked as Deckmasters, which is fine, because I don't think a single Deckmaster game has ever been played. Common Charity is an interesting one, where you're only allowed to use cards that were printed at either common or rare rarities. This locked some decks like Sun Avalon, who have only been printed at Super and above, out of the format entirely, while other decks were able to show their stuff thanks to their low rarity spread. The format had a lot of steam initially, but after people got sick of Yoki Luna Light mirror matches, the shine was firmly off the apple. By contrast, the Master Duel equivalent of this format, and our format, is one of the most popular alt formats of all time, with a massive player base still playing it, despite the event having ended years ago. Part of the Underdog format was the least defined of all the formats, as all it said was basically, play decks that aren't meta right now. What that really meant had to be agreed upon by the tournament organizers and players, since Konami couldn't make the list themselves, since they'd have to acknowledge that some of their decks suck. Formats are a great idea that, if Konami put even a little bit of effort into, like they did with Time Wizard and Rivalry, could be a great way to play the game. Yujo Friendship. Yu-Gi-Oh! Friendly ventures out of the ordinary when it comes to card effects. Every once in a while we'll get a strange card like Transmission here, but the gap between cards with effects like that, or Question, or Linear Equation Cannon is years. One of the first cards with a truly bizarre effect, though, came out in 2002 called Yujo Friendship. The rules of the game weren't the only rules being broken, as its artwork depicts Joey and Yugi shaking hands, playing off the pun of the name, where the first syllables of their names, Yu and Jo, form the word Yujo, which in Japanese means friendship. Anime characters almost never appear on tournament cards, analogs for them, Will. Quite frequently, in fact. A deck like Gimmick Puppets have their pilot Quattro, represented by Fantastic's Machinex. Ancient Gear have Commander to represent Growler. DDs have Divine Zero King Rage to represent Ragey. Lots of decks have these. Even decks that are more direct will give you room for doubt. Like Performapal Duelist Extraordinaire, clearly having Yuya, but we can predict it's not. Gravekeeper's Trap, Blackbird Close, Photon Time Stop. Obviously we know who they are, but they don't just put the characters directly on the cards. Yujo Friendship, Unity, and Judgment of the Pharaoh are the exceptions to this rule, as they just have the whole gang on it. They got lazy and just used a group photo for card art. The effect itself is to add up both players' life points and then redivide them so each player gets half of the total. The opponent, though, can
Welcome
simply
back.
refuse the effect.
I am
which
at your
confirms not
service.
by saying yes or
Please
no,
leave it over
but
here,
by
please.
accepting a handshake. This is, to
Is
this
there
day,
anything
the
else?
only
Have a
card in
safe
the
trip.
game that requires physical contact between players to properly resolve.
Hello?
Transmission Gear got close, but covering your opponent's rock with your paper is purely a power move. This card needed you to shake your
What
opponent's
you got
hand.
for me?
This card was obviously
Thanks, I got
designed
some new
first
goods.
as a fun
Go
card
on,
to
take a
reference
look. Is that
Yuki
all
and
you
Joey's
came for?
friendship. A nice gift for the relationship that meant so much to the series. People were labbing out how to use it to fuck with people from day one. The most popular idea was to make your hand disgusting with stuff like Doritos, or honey, or dog shit, and then offer your opponent a handshake. If they refuse to engage, they get an automatic game loss for not playing by the rules. And they just say no? Well, no in fact. Because Yujo Friendship has the effect to reveal unity in
Thanks
your
for the
hand to
business.
force your opponent to accept the handshake. This problem was so rampant that Konami had to make up a new ruling saying that you don't have to physically shake your opponent's hand.
Welcome to the
Instead,
Rooster
all you
Inn.
have to do is consent to the idea of a handshake.
Very well.
Opponent offers you one, and you say,
A quick rest, right?
yes, I
Of
would
course.
shake your hand. And that's the end of it. At least that's what I thought.
Sign in over
Are
here,
you guys
please.
familiar with the case of
Well,
Devil
be
Joe
careful
eating
out
his own
there.
tail? I want to talk about this more. I just need to find more topics that fit this niche, but basically the Monster Hunter community was convinced the monster Devil Joe ate his own tail because he's a trash compactor who eats anything. When a new fan asked for footage of Devil Joe eating his own tail, everybody realized at once he actually doesn't eat his own tail, and everybody was just convinced that he did and accepted that he could. But really, he can't. I think that's what happened with Yujo Friendship. I can't find any rulings databases, blog posts, or forum posts anywhere that cite the idea of a handshake as the official rule. Wiki says that's the rule, but without citing an official source. Nowhere on the internet does it actually exist a ruling regarding Yujo Friendship. The closest I can find to it is a random old post from the old department that references the idea of a handshake. summoned it in order to attack Forget-Me. That's not the only way to break a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game's AI. A common example in Master Duel is to set up a situation in solo mode where any move would kill the computer. Setting up a lock using the Trickstar cards, where activating a card like Gladiator's Proving Ground would trigger a bunch of burn effects, is one such example, since the computer would be unable to make a decision. It's like chess, where the computer won't make a decision that would lead to its defeat. Except here, it only realized it made the choice after it was too late to take it back. There are plenty of stories of people finding the AI to be less than competent, with acts like using torrential tributes.
Times is also
Okay, while everything's happening. Right, an enemy from B8. Does Alan canonically always charge his phone on his computer? Why the fuck is Minecraft so powerful?
There are plenty of stories of people finding the AI to be less than competent, with artifacts like using torrential tributes on itself, or using gold sarcophagus to search an additional gold sarcophagus. As long as these games keep letting you play against computers, we'll find ways to break them. Sometimes that means metaphorically, but other times it can mean spiritually. Making the computer surrender. An extension of the previous topic, except this time, instead of breaking a game's AI on accident, we'll be breaking it on purpose. If you remember the first layer, we discussed Tier 0 strategies, and the first of them was a combo involving Chaos Emperor Dragon and Yatagarasu. By using Chaos Emperor Dragon's effect, you destroy your opponent's field and entire hand. Then using a card like Sangan, you get Yatagarasu. Poke in, deny your opponent their draw phase, return Yata, and repeat until they surrender. Well, seeing as various games allow for the usage of banned cards, like the Tag Force series, World Championship series, and Legacy of the Duelist, they included a mechanic to stop duels from going on so long as the opponent is poked over and over again with Yatagarasu. If the computer is put into an infinite loop situation like this, where it has no option left except get poked repeatedly by Yatagarasu, the game will actually surrender on purpose rather than let the game continue. This also gives the player a hefty bonus when doling out duel points for being able to pull off such a difficult feat. Whether you want to call it an Easter egg or a workaround for people who wanted to torture a computer, it's a really cool inclusion to see Konami acknowledge the strength of the combo and then reward you for pulling it off. Necro Valley. Erratas are a love 'em or hate 'em part of the game. Some people appreciate being able to play with classic cards, others think they get neutered by the change. With cards like Crush Card Virus and Chaos Emperor Dragon being better off if they just stayed banned instead of coming off with their terrible new effects? Certainly, but this is not a one-size-fits-all system. In fact, some cards benefit from their errata, like Armory Arm. Original printing, Armory Arm was able to form a loop using Colossal Fighter to burn the opponent to death. But it eventually got errata to take away that capability. An Episode format game in Steam, though, and Armory Arm functioning as it did pre-errata at the event the format is named for, in Hidden Arsenal Chapter 1, they reprinted Armory Arm with its pre-errata effect. Other times it can be confusing, like Raiko Lightsworn Hunter, who has been errata 5 times due to Konami not knowing if they want Raiko's 2 effects to target or not, or if they want them to apply in sequence or simultaneously. Crown jewel of erratas, though, with a whopping 9 erratas in total, is Necro Valley. Necro Valley is the field spell of the first ever archetype in the game, Gravekeepers. It basically has 2 effects. The first is that Gravekeepers gain 500 attack and defense. That's the easy part. The second idea, conceptually, is that Necro Valley is meant to keep any card effect from working if they involve the graveyard. Thematically, Necro Valley is supposed to be the Gravekeeper's domain. Stretch of land where the living and dead interconnect, but never cross. If you're on one plane, you can't enter the other. Flavor-wise, that being the effect of the Gravekeepers is fantastic. But apparently making this effect work is impossible! The first printing of Necro Valley reads, as long as this card is face-up on the field, all effects of magic, trap, and/or effect monster cards that involve graveyards are negated, and neither player can remove cards in the graveyard from play. In addition, increase the attack and defense of all monsters that include Gravekeeper in their card name by 500 points. Already? What the hell does this mean? Effects that involve graveyards? So, if a monster like Mystic Tomato is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, well, it mentions the graveyard, so I guess that would count, right? It would have to. It involves the graveyard. The first errata didn't solve much, since it simply swapped magic for spell cards, but the next functional reprint would come in Dark Revelations Volume 1. As long as this card remains on the field, negate the effects of spell, trap, and monster cards that affect a card in the graveyard. and neither player can remove cards in the graveyard from play. Also, as long as this card remains on the field, increase the attack and defense of all monsters that include gravekeepers in their card names by 500 points. Alright, that clears things up a little. So the card effect has to affect a card in the grave. Stuff like Monster Reborn or Call of the Haunted won't work. The Champion Pack 3 reprint of the card cleared things up further by removing loaded text like, as long as
Holy shit, this is way different.
on the field. The Turbo Pack 2 reprint of the card.
It was already
changed the effect
interesting
again
enough
to
in the
only
original.
cards that targeted cards in the
Of course,
graveyard.
Mama shoots
Targeting?
lightning now.
Targeting? Who the hell was talking about targeting? Structure Deck Merrick's version of the card reverted the text somewhat, so now the graveyards can't be affected by card effects unless the card is already in the graveyard. So a card like Madolche Bucklemus shuffles himself back into the deck when destroyed, won't be affected by Necro Valley, since the effect moving it is its own? The Yugi's World reprint of Necro Valley changed the effect again, now saying that any effect that would move a card from the graveyard to a different place is negated. Well, now Butlerusk is staying dead, but this wording is totally unique to Necro Valley, simply referring to anywhere other than the graveyard as a different place. The card would calm down for about 5 years until the Pack Duelist Saga, where it underwent another errata, this time so that now it wouldn't just stop cards from moving out of the graveyard, but now they couldn't change their type or attribute while in the graveyard. I have no idea how many cards this actually affects until Declaration of Rebirth gets printed. But as far as I can tell, this was a direct you to the Element Sabers. As if life treated them poorly enough. The final 2 erratas are nothing special. Simply saving precious
It's so
space
scary that it actually turns in the minimap.
Why? Specifying that only Gravekeepers on the field get the attack boost. Oh, thank goodness. Otherwise, we'd have to errata it again to make sure monsters can't gain attack in the grave too. Lock up Grandpa's casket, he's getting stronger! Necro Valley is a sort of monument to the continue evolving complexity of Yu-Gi-Oh! The more the game evolves, and the more things that can happen in the graveyard, the more particular the wording needs to get on Necro Valley. And, ironically, this resting place keeps being in constant commotion.
Well, getting on its ass wasn't that hard.
Emergency ban lists. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is hanging on by a thread, and I'm about ready to make some cuts. There's a good chance that at any point in Yu-Gi-Oh!'s history, there's some card making a format a nightmare to play. If you look back at Kashtira format, people wanted a Rise Heart's head on a stick. For all of 2022, people wanted to see a cave-in at the Mystic Mine. The Dragon Rulers would have been tolerable if they didn't have a draw 8 in the form of Super Rejuvenation.
Sorry.
Annoying cards exist in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Nothing unethical will be done to your child.
Dealt with in due time.
Hopefully.
Sometimes, though, that due date gets shifted up when a format gets real bad.
Ow.
Emergency ban lists. And quantifying exactly how many there
I
have been
guess I should
is
try to find
difficult.
another way out.
What makes a ban list an emergency ban list varies depending on who you ask. Some people define it as a meta-warping list that hits as many cards as possible, which would include stuff like the September 2017 list that finally killed Zodiac and tried slowing True Draco down. The January 2019 list that finally put down problem cards like Topologic Dumbledore Dragon, Fairy Tale Snow, and Grinder Golem. Or
I need to
January
find the guard's
2020
boyfriend.
list, which said, F you, you're not playing Toss anymore. And Divion, F you. F you in particular, you little bitch. These are definitely the type of ban list most often referred to as an emergency one, but you're still likely to see people refer to them as one due to their explosive effects on the game. The much more common type of lists, called emergency ban lists, are the ones announced outside of the usual ban list cycle. You can expect a certain amount of time between lists, and when that trend is broken, people notice and take it to mean something real bad is going down. Funny enough, that September 2017 ban list is, again, considered an emergency ban list by these standards, thanks to it coming out between the June 2017 and November 2017 ban lists. That means there was only a 2-month break between the September and November ban lists. Given what was banned, I can see why it was needed. The first proper emergency banning came back in December of 2006, after the final ban list of Reaper format, as many of its key cards, like Chaos Sorcerer, Tsukiyomi, and of course Spirit Reaper, were limited or banned. The biggest hit, though, wouldn't come for a few more months as we finally hit the card that was tearing the game apart, Cyberstein. Originally a prize card, available in a quantity so low you could count all printed copies, if you could count to 18, Cyberstein has the effect to summon out a fusion monster for free at the cost of 5,000 life points. While it was initially no issue due to its scarcity and lack of powerful options, both of those problems would soon be resolved with the release of the Cyber Dragon fusions in Cybernetic Revolution. Cyber Twin Dragon allowed for double attacking to clear out multiple monsters, while Cyber End Dragon allowed for piercing damage, which in combination with a card like Megamorph, which required your life points to be lower than your opponent's, which they would be if you activated Cyberstein, that meant that running these 3 cards could end the game in 1 activation. He does so much for these bums and he still can't be considered a cyber monster? It became the norm for any deck that had the option to play Cyberstein playing it, because its power level was just insane. It's not like we were hurting for extra deck space either. The extra deck still didn't have a cap on it, and what else were you putting in it? The second problem, Cyberstein's availability, stopped being a problem when the prize card saw a reprint in Dark Beginnings Volume 2 and Rare. Now 3 Cybersteins in every deck became the norm. Recognizing that Cyberstein was in fact busted to shit, Cyberstein got smacked with the ban hammer individually on December 21st, less than a week after a Stein OTK mirror match was the grand finals of the SGC San Jose tournament. And Konami brought it back because we were looking too comfortable. The last recognized emergency list is also the strangest, as following the release of Breaker of Shadows, a new Tier 0 deck had emerged, Pepe. Short for Performapal Performage, this deck used the best cards of both strategies to spam the field like it had never been spammed before. While both halves of the deck had seen independent success, with Performage especially being used heavily as the clown engine, Breaker of Shadows gave both decks the last pieces they needed to make it unstoppable. This set gave Performapals the incredible Monkey Board, which immediately converted into either Skullcrabat Joker or Pendulum Sorcerer, 2 very important parts of the deck. While not first appearing in Breaker of Shadows, Reform Mages had access to Plush Fight, the card that spams monsters from deck upon destruction with no once per turn. Draco Face-Off was a generic pendulum tool that immediately got you access to the powerful Draco Slayer monsters, Luster Pendulum in particular. Arguably the biggest part of Breaker of Shadows was the inclusion of a Cyber Dragon card, Cyber Dragon Infinity. Normally summoned off the effect of Cyber Dragon Nova, the card was broken wide open by Teller Knight Ptolemaeus, which could turn itself into Nova, instantly making Infinity. Hate to steal a joke here, but it was more of a big deal that Ptolemaeus could make Infinity than it was that Ptolemaeus had the ability to skip the opponent's turn. At the deck's only premier event at full power, 29 of the top 32 spots were taken up by Pepe. The only other deck to get that much representation was Zodiacs. Nothing else comes close. This would be
I can't find the boyfriend, let's just go.
Power at,
The wyvern's really mad now that we took the egg.
3 days prior to the event, Konami released an adjusted ban list that literally was just hits to kill Pepe. You had the banning of Performage's Plushfire and Damage Juggler, as well as Ptolemaeus. Limits included Skullcrabat, Monkey Board, and Luster Pendulum. And like that, the deck was finally brought back into sync with the rest of the format. What makes this one the strangest, though, is how the ban list was optional, to an extent. Official stores were told they had the choice between using the list or not, and
Hello?
those that elected
Which
to
one you
use it
want?
had to print out the list to confirm they'd be playing under it. The announcement
Here
admits
you
as
go.
much that they want players to enjoy the
Here
less
you
than
go.
one gold cards, but this was getting kinda ridiculous. These lists don't happen very often,
Is that all
but
you
when
came
they
for?
do,
Thanks for the
it's just
business.
nice to know we're not going crazy, that this
Let me have a
does
look.
actually suck.
I'm sorry, but
The Tokyo Dome
welcome
riots.
back.
In fact, sometimes it sucks so bad, people gotta die. I can say that because nobody actually died. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a product for Konami that, in the early days, still had something to prove. The card game was broadly treated as a side project to what was making Konami the most money at
Excuse
the
me.
time, video games.
Is there anything
Video
else?
games were treated on equal
I'd like to
footing to the
speak with
card
you.
game, similarly to how it is now with
Would you
Master
please
Duel,
accept
and
this?
in the first ever tournament for Yu-Gi-Oh! The two shared a similar level of prominence.
I am at your service.
Between that first tournament and the one we're going to be talking about, though, the card game would start to outpace
Over
the
here,
success of the
please.
video games and find
Is
a
there
huge
anything
fandom on
else?
its own. One that
Have a safe
Konami
trip.
stoked the flames of with the release of Exodia. He's come up a few different times
Hello?
now, but
What you got
not
for me?
putting all five
Thanks,
pieces
I got
in
some
one
new
pack
goods.
was a
Go
challenge.
on. Is that all you
Imagine getting
came for?
each piece, one by one, across 4 different packs. Starting from the pack Volume 3 onwards, they'd release the limbs one at a time. The legs coming in Volume 3 and Volume 4, and the arms being special collectibles alongside the first 2 volumes of the Dark Duel Stories game guides. You had to put in a lot of legwork in order to collect the pieces, and for the final one, Konami wanted you to put in even more effort. The head was the most important part. This was the thing that made
Thanks for the
Exodia
business.
worth anything. People had to have it.
Welcome to the Rooster
Instead of
Inn.
gambling on packs or stockpiling strategy guides, this time Konami
Very well.
would distribute the head in an exclusive
Then
pack in
allow
the
me to show
Tokyo
you to your
Dome
room.
for the Duel Monsters Legends Tournament. Another half
Well,
TCG,
be careful out
half
there.
video game tournament. The day of the tournament arrives, and so too do 65,000 people.
Okay, hear me
All
out.
fiending for Exodia.
You want to
Konami
ask
turned
around?
back, saw
Now,
the single,
what'll it be? Sorry,
as in
kiddos.
one
But I'm from
booth
again,
that would
kiddos.
distribute the pack, and realized something bad was about to happen. A wave of people
What brings you
crashed
here to
into the
Rada Hall?
Tokyo Dome, demanding the pack, and they quickly overwhelmed that single booth, with packs selling out near instantly, and people becoming belligerent as they were denied the very thing they had spent months collecting. That was just for the people who got it. The Tokyo Dome has a capacity of 55,000 people, so an additional 10,000 people were
You have a
trapped
report to make,
outside
yes?
baking
We
in
are
the summer
grateful for your
heat.
hard work.
The crowds became so raucous that Konami canned the tournament at the semi-final round and got out of Dodge, quickly announcing
Indeed.
a mail-in alternative for the Exodia piece they had missed out on. In all, 2 people were hospitalized with injuries from the event, and many more sustained injury thanks to Konami's mismanagement. While the mail-in orders were redeemed, Konami played it doubly safe and released the pack Phantom God, which included all 5 Exodia pieces in one place. This would eventually come around in the pack The Infinite Forbidden, when the latest Exodia retrain was called...
I hope this is of use in your investigation.
Oh boy, here he is.
We meet for the first time. I am Vizzle, chieftain of the Rada. I protect Etria and promote exploration of the forest.
Why is everything he say fully voiced? Oh, I wanted to personally thank you for your successful forays into the labyrinth. Now, as I'm sure you'll be exploring the place further, I have a point of advice to impart to you. The road leading further into the labyrinth is hidden near the Wyvern. So said adventurers in ancient times, who went deeper into the labyrinth than we now do. Lately, only a few explorers dare to go below the 8th floor. I have high hopes that you'll be the one to reopen the way to the lower floors.
Well then,
Now then, if you'll excuse me, I look forward to speaking with you another day. I'm glad you were finally able to meet our chieftain. Dang, I knew I should have voice acted him because I knew this was going to be an important cutscene. Gosh darn it. We're all very devoted to him, and we work with him to further develop this town. The chieftain only has time to meet with the very bravest explorers, you know. It's a sign that you've become exemplary adventurers.
We are relying on your strength. Was there something else? Ah, it's you. Well then, I bid you good luck.
We'll continue to give him fodder for his pet project, which is a stupid fucking tree.
Keep it quick. We'll see you around.
Welcome to the Rooster Inn.
Vale will soon be the beast she was always destined to be. It'll be glorious. And at some point in her life, she'll realize she doesn't need no stupid stick. She can just throw them hands. I'm getting prayer since that increases our exploration time significantly.
Sign in over here, please.
I'll leave it there for now.